Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Me. In my series, Freemasonry and Satanism. I came up with that name back in 2013, September, when I started this series. This is going to be series 129. On this book, the Marxist Minstrels. Get this, a handbook on communist subversion of music. Daniel Noble. This was published back in 1974. So back in the 20s and 30s, and after that, there was a lot of communist activity in the United States of America and the world. I think series number 130 will be on the Encyclopedia Judaica. I looked up communist. Unbelievable information. I've been reading it. As you can see here. Unbelievable information. And I haven't touched the surface. These are the pages I've read. So I can say with a little bit of accuracy, I know a little bit now. So those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages on communist that I read. And it looks like there's another 2, 4 pages to go. And when I say 2 pages in this book, one side is so huge, it's actually 2 pages. They even number it as 2 pages on the top. So when I said 6, I actually read 12 huge pages. I got about 6 or 8 more to go. Unbelievable information on the communist in the Encyclopedia Judaica. So I suspect when they brag about what they have done and what they're doing, we can probably believe that. But when they also give the Jews, the Bolshevik Jews, Zionist Jews, not to be confused with good Jewish people who are believers in God, Orthodox Jews. So there's a battle in the Jewish camp between the Zionists and the non-Zionists, between good Jews and the Illuminati banksters, like Henry Mackay writing the book Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. And Henry Mackay is a PhD Jewish author in Canada. So who are you going to believe? What's that have to do with the Marxist Minstrels? What did the communists do? The people vying for the new age, the new world order, all this ties together. No doubt about it. If you've been watching my videos, watching other people's videos. There goes that phone. Got to do your day job to make a living. So, named this series Freemasonry and Satanism. Been following everything from the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, mysticism, Kabbalah, Hermetic teachings, witchcraft, Satanism. Pretty much broad spectrum. Channeling, psychic material, history, religions, So with the Freemasonry, we're describing the physical world, the temples, the lodges, the secret societies and organizations. Satanism, we're talking about some dark beings, maybe non-physical. Maybe they can do certain types of manifestations, appearing. Maybe they are these gray aliens, reptilians. It seems to be real, and that is where the problem lies. A lot of people don't know what's real. I was reading this book a long time ago. I've got to read it some more and make a video on it. The Israel Test. To be honest, when I was reading it, I couldn't stomach it. And let me tell you why. I'll read from the back of the book, and maybe you'll see why. Gilder's originality. That's the author, George Gilder. Plus the sheer force of his enthusiasm for the extraordinary virtues of the beleaguered Jewish state, swept away the prevailing vertile, and make a book that is nothing less than thrilling to read. Throughout the years, Gilder has been building his own version of a social, economic, unified field theory, integrating policies, sex, economics, and technology with a dose of religion thrown in. So the Israel Test spoke to me with unexpected power. These are people's comments. Apart from being brilliantly, fiercely written, its merit lies in clarifying in a totally new, secular, and intuitive way why Israel matters. David Klinghoffer, The Jerusalem Post. Gilder's originality. We just read that. My friends, it would behoove you to study everything you can get your hands on by George Gilder, a true American genius. No one understands the entrepreneurial basis of economic growth better than George Gilder. So it goes on here to say all the great things the Jews have been responsible for, and I just couldn't read it because apparently, according to some people's writings of history, certain peoples did everything and the rest of us didn't do anything. We should be thankful because of that. And I tell you, you can listen to me if you want, believe me if you want, but I've been reading Communist in the Encyclopedia Judaica. I've made a lot of videos on anti-Semitism, the Kabbalah, Jewish history in Germany, the United States. Got so much more in these Encyclopedia Judaicas. So is something going on in the world? Can we expect World War III or worldwide revolutions? Will this new age and new world order come about? It looks like it. Will they depopulate the planet? Are they depopulating it right now? It looks like it. Go outside and see the chemicals they're dumping in your sky. Or go get some books like this or watch some videos. Chemtrails, HAARP, and the full spectrum dominance of planet Earth. Full spectrum dominance. Back in 1974, Subversion with music. We know that they created the hippie movement, and over in Europe it was called festivals. Introduced LSD and other drugs into the populations. And all the groovy music and the albums with lots of satanic symbols on them. And who are these people? Here's another book. The Invisible Government. George Leroy. You can't make this stuff up. foreign agents. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee from the 1963 Fulbright hearings, the 2005 espionage scandal. And to make the story even a little crazier, who are these Jewish people? We would imagine back in Jesus' day, with the pharaohs and the King Solomon's temple and Arabs, Middle Easterners, they would all be kind of brown people, you think? Located right north of Africa, part of Africa, the Middle East, so you'd have a lot of black people. I don't think you'd have a whole lot of white people. Just my observation. I didn't see how they got down in there from Germany and Russia and Ukraine and Poland and England and Europe. A lot of that activity was off towards Rome. But Rome might have sent some white people over there, Pontius Pilate and soldiers, legions of them. There was warring going back and forth, crusades. So who are these Jewish people? Here's another book. The Jews of Khazaria. Kevin Allen Brooke. So apparently, 1,000 years ago, plus or minus, a whole nation, next to Russia and Hungary and the Byzantine Empire and Persia right north of the Middle East, white people, Khazarians, and maybe even part Orient next to Mongolia, adopted the religion of the Jewish people, Judaism, as their religion. Akhenazi Jews, they're called. Isn't that weird? It has Nazi in the name, Akhenazi. And the Jews from the Middle East, down here on the south side, they were Arabs. They were called Shepherdetic. Get it? Shepherds? Shepherdetic. And in Revelation 9 in the Bible, it says clearly, Revelation 9, the last book of the Bible, Jews who call yourselves Jews, but are not. That's revelation from God. So God knows who are real Hebrews and who are real people from the Middle East and the Arabs. Another book here just to show you. The Terror Conspiracy. The Jews were involved, the Israeli Mossad and other Israeli agents, in Deception 911 and the loss of the liberty. Big, thick book. So I've got a lot to read. I remember reading this book a long time ago. Haven't made a video on it yet. But The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. You won't believe who the first two political parties were in the United States. It wasn't Democrats and Republicans. It was Masons and anti-Masons. The anti-Masons were Christians. The Masons, according to Albert Pike and many others, is a Luciferian religion, teaching, morals and dogma. So here we have Luciferian against Christianity, God. And the Freemasons, the Masons party, at one point vowed never to allow an anti-Mason Christian into the Senate, the House of Representatives, presidency, way back then. Talking about the wrong book. The one I was talking about is by President John Adams, Letters on Freemasonry. This one here is by Manly Hall. This is another one that indicates that Lucifer is their deity, and that even George Washington was a Mason, a leading Mason. They kind of treat him like he's a god. Here's the one I was talking about. Got my books confused. But back then, the two political parties were the Masons, anti-Masons, and President John Quincy Adams wrote this book. I made a video on it, video number 30. You can go watch it. But they vowed never to allow non-Masons, Freemasons, and also the other secret societies, Council of Foreign Relations, trilateral groups, Rosicrucian, Bohemian Grove, Skull and Bones, Brotherhood of Death. So these people vowed back then, this president tells all, letters on Freemasonry, that they would never allow the Christians to be elected. And now, of course, we have the Republicans and the Democrats. And people probably don't understand, but those two parties are meant to deceive everybody. They're controlled by the same forces. And the left, the progressives, the liberals, their leaders even write books, A Pragmatic Primer for Realistic Radicals. Saul Alinsky. So they write books on how to be a radical. And why I'm going over all this stuff is because we're talking about the Marxist Minstrels. Supporting information that that's what they did. Even this guy was a secret society member. Brave New World. Aldous Huxley. And now there's a lot of talk about World War III. We all know that 9/11 snuck up on us. Here's a book written by Dr. Tim LaHaye, Earth's 2-Minute Warning. Today's Bible predicted signs of the end times. So when I go back and do Series 130 and we talk about communists in this book, you're going to see that this program has been underway for a long time, and way before anybody had any kind of anti-Semitism sentiment, feelings in America. Hundreds of years there was lots of trouble in Russia and all around Europe for 2,000 years, wherever the Jewish people went. And this is not anti-Semitism, this is fact. The Jews would wind up having hostile relations with whatever host country they were in, even sometimes being banished, evicted, expelled. Britain, Spain, many countries. Why? Why did they create the Bolshevik Jewish people? Why did they create communists? Why are they messing with our society right now, trying to create something like chaos and anarchy, civil disobedience? You think they're doing it because they really care about us? Anyways, I think I figured it out pretty clear, but these people who are communists, of course, were created by the Jewish people who took over Russia, which was an espionage event after World War I. I bet the Tsar and the Russians never saw that coming after World War I, and financed and trained these people, these espionage agents, went into Russia, abducted the Tsar and his family. It's all covert. Took them to a remote building, and after they called it a revolution. But apparently 25 million to 100 million Christians and other good people were killed over the next 10 to 12, 13 years. There's material on that. We'll go over that. They call it a purge when they do these revolutions. And the reason I mention this, but there's a lot of talk on videos you watch on YouTube and alternate websites and guest speakers on Infowars.com and other people. Even Dane Wigington with the talking about chemtrails and weather control and weather warfare. He's talking about all this stuff of a looming collapse of the entire system. And they've been building up to this for a long time. So they have more of these organizations. Conspirators' Hierarchy, the story of the Committee of 300 by John Coleman. There's a lot of good books out there. I read this one a long time ago about a Polish lieutenant. It's not what you think about the Jews in Germany and Poland and that area and all that. A lot of the Jews who were rounded up were sent to Poland to live in ghettos, fenced-in ghettos, and certain people went around to all those Jews. I suspect they were the good Jews, and fleeced them of all their belongings, gold, and they were shipping some of them, the hand-selected ones, to Palestine. That's World War I now. Then you got spirit cooking, Pizzagate, sex scandals, children pedophilia, legislation, even trying to ban the age restrictions on when you can have sex with a child. A lot of that was exposed in the Franklin cover-up. Child abuse, Satanism, and murder in Nebraska. You see what I'm saying? Satanism. These elites controlling the world into Satanism, into child abuse. Got some other books here. I need to just share stuff. Baron James, The Rise of the French Rothschilds. Look at the shield, the picture here. What are we dealing with here? Look at the symbols on that. Look at the phoenix on the Rothschild shield. The phoenix. We've been going over what the phoenix means, even with that Eurovision singing contest in Europe, like our American Idol. The winner was Conchita Wurst. Wurst, of course, is a sausage, a male part. Conchita is a female part, who is dressed like the head of Jesus in a body with a woman's silky dress down below. Go look it up. 2014 Eurovision contest. So Conchita Wurst won, looking like Jesus and a woman on the bottom. The ball of the devil is androgynous, male and woman. FYI. And anyways, this Conchita Wurst was singing The Phoenix Rising, which has the words, "You can't stop us." There goes my phone again. So you look at the Rothschild's crest and you see the phoenix there. And what that really means is this new world order, this new age that they want to bring about. They have to destroy everything. Burn it all down. So what do we know? What should we know? The shocking truth behind the mass deaths of disarmed German soldiers and civilians under General Eisenhower's command. James Bacru, probably saying his name wrong. So more evidence that they intended to truly, literally destroy the German people. And that's a heck of a story. But disarmed, captured German soldiers, citizens, and then of course a lot of rape of German women and children. And then of course the videos I was making, I made part 1 and part 2. Hitler, Germany must perish. You can go watch my videos there. I got another book here that should be interesting for me to read. The Guide to Zionism. I'll just read one little page here. I have no idea what it says. There is not the slightest difference of opinion among the great powers on the establishment of a Zionist state, nor on giving Great Britain the mandatory. To the record of these reiterations of assurances from the powers should be added the statement made by President Wilson to the delegation of the American Jewish Congress. I have before this expressed my personal approval of the declaration of the British government regarding the aspirations and historic claims of the Jewish people in regard to Palestine. It's page 99. I am, moreover, persuaded that the Allied nations, with the fullest concurrence of our own government and people, are agreed that in Palestine shall be laid the foundations of a Jewish commonwealth. This is World War I material. It's called Mr. Balfour Took Occasion to Congratulate the Zionist Representatives. So the short story is Britain was losing the war between Germany and Britain, World War I. And the Jews came to the rescue to Britain. Even the Jews who found their Garden of Eden, their paradise, in Germany when they had fled Russia. Again, all that's in this Encyclopedia Judaica. And all the problems and turmoil the Jews were experiencing in the Ukraine, Poland, all those countries, Belarus. And so after the revolution, or the espionage event where they shipped in some people and captured the Tsar and his family and executed them and took over the country and killed 25 million, some say 100 million. There's different pieces of evidence out there. It's called a purge. So whenever they have one of these revolutions by these communist factions, which the Jewish people have a tendency to be behind revolutions, there's usually a purge. And right now, a lot of we the people are being influenced by the subversive music. We've seen the movies, even programs like Lucifer or Gotham. The viciousness, it's just sick. I watch some of those programs just so I can sit here and talk on a video and tell you firsthand, it's just sick. The viciousness, it's just, you can't describe it, it's so sick. Then they give us shows like Seinfeld or 2.5 Men, where the leading male characters and the other characters are all engaged in sex and sex and sex and sex, and they're normalizing that out there in the world. And Modern Family and all kinds of other programs, we've all seen it. Hunger Games, Divergent, World War Z, zombies. All this is intentional. LSD, the hippie movement, festival movement, World War I, World War II, 911, Synthetic 911 Synthetic Terror by Webster Tarpley shows how the Mossad, Israeli agents, and other people were involved. But nobody wants to talk about that. Taboo. The Guide to Zionism tells all. This is an effort that's been going on for hundreds of years, and they're not about to stop now. And apparently some people say they're so determined to do this, if they can't succeed, they intend to take the world down in a flaming inferno. 3-minute warning? 30-minute warning? How long will we be notified if they start nuking cities or releasing biological plagues? Let's assume they want to keep all the facilities, industrial, residential homes, bridges, roads. And they just want to kill off all the USA citizens, for example. Like they wrote that book, Germany Must Perish. Now they're saying Syria must perish. They've been bombing the smithereens out of Syria for quite a while. And I guess the United States shot down a Syrian jet yesterday, the day before. And the Russians are saying any U.S. jets that cross over to the line that they have drawn, that the Russians will shoot them down. So all of this, in my opinion, is being orchestrated by the so-called communists, which are also the secret societies, Freemasonry, and not all the low levels. Come on. The low-level people they recruit and get the money from, promising them some kinds of secrets or business connections or social fun and all that, they don't know. But if you're one of those people that they believe, I suppose, that is can be bought, evil, traitor, then you'll move on. You have to select all these people. People they can blackmail, people they can get things on. So I'll read some from the book here. I just thought I'd go through all this stuff to show there's an overwhelmingly, and this is just 10 books here, 12 books. I've got 600 in this room. I've got more in storage. I've been collecting these books since 2005. I've been reading them and making these videos because I wanted to share what I had read. I said, what the heck good is it if I read it and I get those aha moments and oh my God moments that I didn't know that and I didn't know this. I thought, well, I better make some videos so people can not have to spend 10, 12, 13 years and 8, 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, reading and reporting and documenting and cataloging press releases, watching videos, magazines, Nexus magazines and other ones. It's a daunting task when you really want to try to find out what's going on in the world. What are they planning? But once you get to a certain point, it starts to all come together. And it does appear to me the invisible realm reality, call it Hades, hell, heaven, this different dimension, different planes of existence, apparently that's real. And it's interacting with this plane. And for a long time, there's been a lot of theft and death and sexual abuse, perversion on we humans by these entities and the other humans that they control or are in cahoots with them. It's a lot to say. But I'll read from the Marxist Minstrels, a handbook on communist subversion of music. I'll let you decide. David Nobel. And then on series number 130, I'll read from the Encyclopedia Judaica on communists, right out of their book, and let you decide. All right, here we go. Remember, I'm not trying to do audiobooks. Read a little bit from this. If you like it, you need your own proof. Go online, try to find the book, like I did. The American Christian College Press, Tulsa, Oklahoma, January 1974. I'll read a little bit from the preface. Karl Marx, in his 1848 manifesto. Consider this. Karl Marx, 1848 manifesto. That's how far back this communist effort goes. Further, probably. It's probably called something else, part of the Zionist program. And I'm aware that even for 1,000 years or further back, the Jewish people had a propensity to be in the money lending business. Even Jesus in the Bible overthrows the money changers' tables 2,000 years ago. And they were organizers for the Crusades, for the kings and the Vatican, collecting money and supplies. So these people had a particular tendency to be involved in this stuff. While most people out there in the reality are completely unaware of this planning, like 911. All those false flags we see all the time. Bombings and shootings and Sandy Hook. And then one of the news reporters holds up a picture of an owl. People don't even know what the owl means. Why is there an owl on the U.S. $1 bill perched on one of the ones on the front. Bohemian Grove, they have a giant owl, Moloch. They throw a baby in the fire, calling it the cremation of care. While the grown men, presidents, and other elites all over the world who are members dress in naked with long robes and they ship in gay men for sex, so it has been reported. And it aligns with a lot of the other stuff like Aleister Crowley and with the spirit cooking, Pizzagate, so much more. We have seemingly, pretty obvious it seems to me, the satanic Luciferic forces who are anti-Christian and other good religions and commandments. Their idea of liberty and freedom isn't what most of us think. And they're very powerful. They take over the movie industry, created it. The music, they know what the music can do. Some of these songs are more powerful than guns and bombs because it sways the minds of people. It's what it's meant to do. All right, so Karl Marx in his 1848 manifesto said, "The communists disdain to conceal their views and aims." So they don't want to conceal their views and aims. Following the example of their prenological master, the communists have openly declared culture, music, art, and literature to be in their sphere of weaponry. That's what it says in this preface. Moshe Dektor, in the Profile of Communism, admits the communist endeavor to capture men's minds through the cultural offensive, and J. Edgar Hoover, the late director of the FBI, stated that the communists have infiltrated every conceivable sphere of activity, youth groups, radio, television, motion picture industries, church, school, education, and cultural groups. This is 1974, remember, this book. So there were people who knew what was going on. This battle's been going on a long time. John Quincy Adams, a long time ago, when the United States declared independence, 1776, and the leading parties were the Masons and anti-Masons, and the Masons are apparently, according to these authors, Manly Hall, Albert Pike, and others, a Luciferic doctrine. And of course, Christianity would be one that is Christian and the Ten Commandments and Jesus' teachings to treat other people how you want to be treated. To love one another. That's what they're trying to turn into hate. If you love one another and you want people to treat each other like you want to be treated, they're going to call you a hater. Don't be judging me. I can be transsexual, pansexual. I can have sex with anything. That's what people will say. They're going, I think people are losing their mind. And I'm not just making that up. There's some videos I watch on YouTube by some very educated people who say that maybe 50% of the population is a little bit touched. And I can't blame them with the drugs, alcohol, school teachings, and all this other propaganda, mind control, grown people watching cartoons all day and programs like that. Dumbing down of America is what they call it. I think a lot of people agree with this, what I'm saying. All right, so the communists, according to the Edgar Hoover, have infiltrated every conceivable sphere of activity. Schools, education, cultural, press, minority, nationality, minority groups, civil and political units. He stated elsewhere, the war between communism and the free world is not fought with bombs or other tangible weapons. It is being fought now by subversion through the medium of ideas. It is not an accident that the greatest concentration of communist workers has been found in these three fields: education, union, and entertainment. I was reading one website, the blogs, and some comments, and people on the inside said that the Jewish people dominate the positions in a lot of universities. And it's very cliquish, and they hate non-Jews. I've saved it on my computer, in case anybody says, I don't believe you, Rick. Let me know in the comment, and I'll try to put the link there, so you can read the stuff for yourself. And all these books. The evidence is clear, even in the Encyclopedia Judaica, their gigantic encyclopedia, this high, 16 volumes, heavy like this. I've been making many hours of videos on different topics in the Encyclopedia Judaica. So it all appears to be true. There are videos on YouTube where educated men and women have made videos on the 90-something different countries that the Jewish people were banned or exiled or put under harsh treatment, made to wear badges, couldn't own properties, could only work in certain trades. Why? And if you talk about these things, like back in the Russian Revolution, which really wasn't a revolution, it was an espionage event. It was invaded by some wealthy elites with lots of money. Russia, probably the Tsar and his family, never saw that coming. But they were coming down on the Jewish people hard all over that country, wherever they were organized. Apparently there was this huge disparity created, and who would have thunk of this? That after they were there for a while, even in Russia, even in Germany, the 2 or 3% of the population, the Jews, versus the other 98% of the population. But anyways, that 2% would wind up controlling something like maybe more than 50% of the money, the wealth, and everything else. Why? How? I guess that would cause some disturbances if somebody was controlling all the resources. Think of the movie Hunger Games. They're telling us what they're planning. And I've read plenty of material where these certain peoples think that we're cattle, or we're soulless beings, or beings with demonic souls. That's what was written about us. It's crazy. So back to this book here. So it's not an accident that the greatest concentration of communist workers has been found in these three fields: education, union, and entertainment. Now remember, it was the Bolshevik Jewish people and Karl Marx people, Jewish people, who created communism. And of course they do reel in a lot of dupes, people who think they're trying to do the right thing, but they don't realize they're being deceived and beguiled. A little money goes a long ways. These are the areas where ideas flourish and thinking patterns are formed. In the musical arena, the radicals have to be congratulated for their successful use of music. So the radicals, the people who want to create this new looming revolution. Can you imagine in the United States? All these people that seemingly look a little out there, protesting even President Donald Trump days after his election, a woman's march, and there's websites, I checked it all out, I printed them out, guided tours, where to meet, what to do. And one woman was asked, an attendee, why she was there. She said, I don't know, I just want to be part of it. So all across this country, we've heard of ACORN and other organizations, they've got a lot of the general populace out there who are on some kind of social aid, and they depend on that money. One guy I talked to at an airport said to me that I think he was 30-something years old, and he'd been at college, and he's being paid to go to college, and he doesn't see any future where he's not going to college, and the state pays for it. How can that be? So they've got some blinded people out there who don't realize they're being set up for a fall, in my opinion. And many other people's opinion. The communist infiltration into subversion of American music has been nothing short of the phenomenon, and in some areas, e.g. folk music, their control is fast approaching the saturation point under the able leadership of Pete Singer, Sing Out, Folkway Records, Oak Publications Inc. One only needs consult R. Serge Dessoff's Great Day Coming for collaborating evidence. Suppose I could get that book, Great Day Coming. The subverter's use of music is a refined, two-edged, subversive sword, cutting deeply into our nation's will to resist a Soviet America. Hunger Games, the movies, they're telling us. Look at Miley Cyrus, videos like, songs like Wrecking Ball, and all these other songs out there that the lyrics, even the one Waiting on the World to Change. So the more depressing and tough it gets, people will be humming on that, hoping for the day, waiting on the world to change. You think that's all just incidental, accidental? Nope. Somebody comes up with these songs and lyrics and Super Bowl halftime shows that are satanic. Swiss mountain tunnel grand opening, all satanic. Even the people who were there, the reporters and the invited dignitaries, political leaders, thought it was all bizarre. How could it not appear to be bizarre? Dropping demons with horns from the sky on ropes, seemingly naked people on a railroad car, all in some kind of groping orgy, and much more. Even the ritual they had for CERN, the collider. The Shiva being image portrayed on the Empire State Building, the goddess of destruction. The goat, gigantic goat on the Hoover Dam. 911. I could go on and on with these examples. One cutting-edge sword is aimed at removing the barrier between classical music and certain types of popular music by substituting perverted form, i.e. jungle noises, for standardized classical form. How many downtown squares have those drum circles on Friday night? And all kinds of other stuff they've set up. They're getting into the minds. It's all intentional. I've got the books. The other edge is more psychological than cultural and consists of the communist use of music directed at destroying the mental and emotional stability of America's youth through a scheme capable of producing mass neurosis. The father of the Bolshevik Revolution, V.I. Lenin, speaking to the Third All-Russian Congress of the Young Communist League on October 2, 1920, insisted that they must rework culture, for only by doing so could they hope to build a proletarian communist culture. Think about it. They want all the working class to get together and rule themselves, take over and get rid of capitalism and other forms of government. But who's behind this? The Jewish people. And what kind of books do we have to show what they're after? Like the Jewish Utopia, Professor Higger, I've gone over that, made a video. Protocols of Zion, so many books. The Guide to Zionism. If you don't believe this stuff is real, what was the date on this book? 1920. Almost 100 years. This is 2017. Look at the picture. There is a plan. It's not a conspiracy. Well, it's a conspiracy, but it's not a conspiracy theory. There is a plan. There is a conspiracy. A lot of it's right out in the open. You can get the books. You can watch my videos. You can use your brain. All right, so let me read. I went just forward here. Chapter 24, Communist Subversion of Folk Music. Page 157. So I read some stuff, as you can see here. Take me a while to read this whole book. But when I am reading, I don't have to stop and point it out. But you'll notice some of the names are clearly Jewish. And even in this material, a lot of these Jewish people were instructed to change their names so they didn't sound Jewish. It is subversion. It is deception. Communist subversion of folk music. The influence of these individuals with their publications and recording companies in the area of folk music is astounding. It is our studied opinion that the communist and the pro-communist have an unbelievable influence in the folk realm, folk music. They and their ideological comrades continue to receive the major publicity, and the press buildup is nearly as great for them as it is for the Beatles. So remember, who owns the newspapers, the media, Hollywood, and all this stuff? There is an agenda, and it's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. The evidence also supports it's been going on for 2,500 years. Wherever these people went, they wound up creating anger and animosity between the host countries where they went to, causing problems where they were exiled. Why? What makes them different than the rest of us? Is it truly that it is a Luciferian, satanic, demonic religion versus, of course, the Ten Commandments and prophets and deities, Jesus, Muhammad, and all over the world, even in native tribes, they had shamas. And the shamas would go in a trance and go into this invisible realm to get advice or cures for illnesses. So even back then, they had some kind of way of communicating with the other side to keep, apparently, the world's human race with some kind of morality, behavior, instead of being animal-like. But I think the people who want this new age and new world order want to return to the barbarism and jungle attitude. Civilized society has to go. And it looks like they're working their way that way right now. This world interconnectedness they want to do isn't going to be good, because what they'll do is 10 different regions all over the world, they'll just create these artificial wars and have the different regions fighting each other. For them, it's some kind of game, watching the slaughter. And the people won't wake up. They'll just follow along like they've been doing. The American Broadcasting Company issued a Hootenanny songbook in conjunction with its Hootenanny program. The songbook, containing reprints of Sing Out, so they had these subversive songs. We'll look at some of the words. Was compiled and edited by Erwin Silber, with music edited by Jerry Silverman. It openly admits that the folk music revival was a movement which grew slowly during the war years, and in the post-war age gained momentum with the formation of a group known as the People's Songs, Inc., an organization of folk song singers. It was under the auspices of the People's Songs that the first hootenannies were presented on a large scale. The ABC TV Hootenanny Songbook contains the works of Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, Mike Seeger, Peggy Seeger, Enwood McCall, Cisco Houston, Irwin Silber, Gene Ritchie, Leadbelly, and Marvina Reynolds. Most of the songs are depressing and obviously designed to stimulate revulsion toward patriotic sentiments. You see that in society right now. They're trying to get rid of nationalism. Tear down that wall, Mr. Trump. They're depopulating the Middle East and shipping the Arabs that are still alive into Europe, the United States, and Canada, and elsewhere. Why are they depopulating the Middle East? Why do they have maps for a greater Israel? It is what it is. But you know, in a lot of countries, it's illegal to speak the truth. And I suppose eventually the Brave New World concept will make it illegal here in the USA and other free countries also. They'll keep doing these terror events, bombing events. The people will demand that the government crack down. The zombies, not knowing where it's all going to lead. It was an inside job, 911. It wasn't we the people. Jade Helm 15, remember that? Troops and equipment all over the U.S. all year, freaking people out, taking videos. Biodiversity, sustainability, global warming, terrorism, threats of plagues, earth tilting, earthquakes, pole shift, World War III. All right. So the songs stimulate revulsion towards patriotic sentiments. In fact, upon analyzing most of the publications of these individuals, one is struck with the seemingly deliberate attempt to denigrate the United States of America. And back in the 1920s and 30s, they had communist congressional hearings with the communists testifying, and they were going to testify. They were infiltrating everything. And if you go back to the communist in the Encyclopedia Judaica when I make that video, you'll see it's no small thing. The abduction of the Tsar in Russia and the revolution, if you can really call it a revolution, it was a sneak attack, espionage. The people never saw that coming. The citizens weren't involved. They were probably all, didn't have internet back then and cell phones. They were all disconnected. It was well thought out, well financed to take control of Russia. You suppose they'll do some kind of sneak attack? In the news today, John Holder, Attorney General for the United States during the Obama administration, has announced he's considering running for president in 2020. Does anybody forget all the things that he was involved with? People are so zombified. Even one press release just recently, a couple days ago, some writer out there in this media said, "Do you miss George Bush yet?" And I'm thinking, heck no. People have such short-term memories. The Democrats are so democratic, they think they can't do no bad. The Republicans think they're so Republican, and their leadership can do no bad. And they don't know that all these people come from secret societies, Skull and Bones, the Brotherhood of Death, Freemasonry organizations, Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderberger groups, Get Rhodes Scholars like Bill Clinton and stuff like that. They're groomed. And even Fritz Springmeier, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, shows that most of the presidents are related. It is a bloodline thing. A lot of these elite families, people who were congressmen 100 years ago, 150 years ago, their children are getting into Congress, and then their children are getting into Congress, and you see all these similar names. They've taken control. They've got the power. All right, moving on. It gets scarier and scarier as I read on. Even our national anthem has to be splashed in the mud with an introductory remark. The fact that the tune of this one of America's first revolutionary songs was an old English drinking song proves that it came from the people and shall forever belong to the people. Across the page from our national anthem is the United Front song which contends. So they're denigrating our national anthem. And they have right across the page in this magazine, they have something called the United Front. And just because he's human, he doesn't like a pistol to his head. He wants no servants under him, and no boss over his head. This is a song. And just because he's a worker, the job is all his own. The liberation of the working class is the job of the workers alone. In the ABC TV songbook, Jesse James no longer is a murderer and thief, but some particular type of humanitarian, since he stole from the rich and gave to the poor. Well, obviously he stole from the rich, since the poor had nothing to be stolen. But whether old Jesse gave to the poor has yet to be established. So they've changed it. They've made heroes out of a lot of people that did evil things. We've seen the movies. The virgin birth of Christ, is mocked with the cherry tree carol. So again, these communist, Zionist, secret society, Masonic organizations apparently are Luciferic, satanic, and they are bent on destroying Christianity and discrediting or saying nasty things about Jesus. And according to Aleister Crowley in the Book of the Law, these evil forces don't like even Hinduism, Buddhism, Mohammedanism, Islam. So the song, the Cherry Tree Carol, Silverman and Silber write a salty old blues, repeat with so not so secondary double meanings. Morality is flouted with blow the candles out. In fact, the only uplifting song in the whole production is Moscow Nights, translated into English by Jerry Silverman and copyrighted by Sing Out. So I guess Sing Out was some kind of magazine. The lyric ends with, "Promise me, my love, as the dawn appears and the darkness turns to light, that you'll cherish, dear, through the passing years, the most beautiful Moscow night. That you'll cherish, dear, through the passing years, the most beautiful Moscow night." Moscow, Russia. The discography, the record, list in the back of the songbook contains a who's who of pro-red communist writers and singers of folk songs. It offers the Folkway Records a list of the artists. Well, who would have ever guessed a book like this existed. I'm just reading small portions here. Young Folk Songbook. Simon & Schuster published a work entitled Young Folk Songbook. It is edited by Earl Robinson, a communist fronter and Fifth Amendment patriot, and dedicated to Woody Guthrie, with an introductor by Pete Seeger. It contains the familiar names Irwin Silber, Alan Lomax, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Malvina Reynolds, Mike Seeger, Peggy Seeger. Joan Baez features Reynolds' What Have They Done to the Rain?, which was a part of the communist thermonuclear Holocaust fear propaganda concerning atomic fallout. However, one can be confident that these Marxist minstrels will remain quiet over any Soviet infringement of the Moscow Test Ban Treaty. The State Department admitted that the Soviet nuclear blast January 15, 1965, released radioactive debris in the atmosphere. This is prima facie a violation of the 1963 Test Ban Treaty, even though Russia ruled out any violation of the treaty because the amount of radioactive released was insignificant. So I think any nuclear explosions, especially all the ones they did in the atmosphere, had to have caused serious problems and danger to we the people. Bob Bola de Chor, Dylan, who openly scorns clothes, baths, and razors, and is portrayed as sloppy, disheveled, unshaven, talks angrily, irrelevantly, opens his repertoire with song to Woody. Hey, hey, Woody Guthrie, I wrote you a song about a funny old world that's a-coming along. Seems sick and it's hungry, it's tired and it's torn. It looks like it's dying, it's hardly been born. People don't pay attention to the words of these songs and what they mean. Just like that one, Waiting on the World to Change. And you know, they get people out there thinking that they're depressed and they're going to support this new change that's coming. They won't even realize it till it dawns on them one morning when they wake up. They're in a Hunger Games movie. Dylan's Ballad of Hollis Brown portrays the exciting story of one who ends all by shooting his wife, 5 children, and finally himself. So Bob Dylan wrote a song about a guy shooting his wife, his 5 kids, and himself. In another of his favorites, Masters of War, we are told he likes to set up a rhythm almost monotonous in its simplicity, and then put in front of it a hard driving melody and a powerful story. The song builds and maintains its intensity until, by the end, your head is ready to come off. How many of us have followed these songs? So they were pretty skilled at writing them, but did people really pay attention to the words? According to Life magazine, his villains are the people he calls masters of war, who profit from the manufacture of weapons, the hypocrites who claim that with God on our side, they can justify whatever evil they want to commit, the professional anti-communist, the segregationist who caused the death of people. So a lot of it's deception. The common sense has left the room. The Masonic politicians, Freemasonry and other secret societies, won't let any Christian or good people in office. And if they do get in office and have a change of heart like President John Kennedy, and tries to expose in his famous speech the secret societies which are repugnant to the way of life in America, and he intended to expose it. We know what happened to him. Even on the internet, you can find pages and pages of people in the banking and the military, scientists, Star Wars, doctors into allopathic medicine, vaccines, people who are exposing it. A lot of those people get mysteriously killed off. Even Fritz Springmeier wound up in jail for a while. It has perhaps never occurred to Mr. Dillon that World War II was started when communist Russia signed a non-aggression pact with Adolf Hitler and actually helped the Nazis swallow Poland. It may have also have escaped him that the communists have been on the offensive with their wars of national liberation all over the world. All over the world. And when I do my series 130, you'll see that this communist activity was serious, and who controlled it? It was these Jewish people looking for some kind of prophesized utopia where they rule the world. We'll see that. This book tells all. I bet when they wrote this book, they didn't realize somebody like me would get it, and it would be a guide to Zionism. Back in 1920? Has the information there, confirming a lot of what I'm saying. Here we get confirmation. So the Russia, the communists, helped Nazis swallow Poland. All kinds of backdoor deals were made. We, the people all over the world, never knew the truth about any of this stuff. All we get to do is go to war and die, or suffer their depressions and other economic calamities that they cause. Depressions, bubbles, recessions, whatever they call them. They got a name for it. It may have also have escaped him that the communists have been on the offensive with their wars on national liberation all over the world, and that the single greatest threat to world peace is atheist, communist intent of total world conquest, says this author back in 1974. He may not be able to stomach the professional anti-communist, but for reasons known only to him, it is quite obvious that he can stomach professional communists. So was Bob Dylan duped? Or does he think those songs are good for America? In Life's Eulogy, bearded bodyguards, Castro style, protect unwashed Bob as he sings. So Bob Dylan has bearded bodyguards like Castro styled. Here's a song, I guess, Bob Dylan. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old rules are rapidly aging. Get it? Even if you watch some of the channeled material I've been going over, which I'll be going over those things again, they say the old religions are dying or gone. Even some of the Ascension videos are saying that the whole earth has died and a new earth is being born. And we talk about the phoenix rising. And apparently even in some of this stuff, they talk about a lot of citizens all over the world are going to resist this new world order this swearing allegiance to Lucifer and being microchipped and all that stuff. And apparently the government has purchased 30,000 guillotines and spread them around the country. Is this some kind of biblical thing? The evil forces taking over the earth, and those people who stick with God and Jesus maybe will be raptured up, or even if you get killed, your soul won't be going to hell with these people, Hades, living under this new age and new world order. Everybody is going to have a choice to make. So continuing on with this song, your old rules are rapidly aging. Please get out on a new one if you can't lend a hand, for the times they are a-changing. Also included in Young Folk Songbook is Mike Seeger and his singing group, the New Lost City Ramblers. And Peggy Seeger, and half-sister to Pete and sister to Mike Seeger. Peggy Seeger is married to Ewan McCall and lives in England. Together with her husband, she has published a book, Songs for the 60s. Workers' Music Association in London printed the book. The Workers' Music Association. Like the name they give these communist groups. Until recently, her husband had been denied a visa into the United States. His manager, Mr. Harold Leventhal, get these last names, in a statement said McCall was considered ineligible for a visa due to some regulation regarding his alleged political beliefs. Describing Peggy Seeger's exploits, Irwin Silber said, in Russia, at a World Youth Festival, and in Communist China, defying the American State Department ban, Peggy was an American voice singing the songs of our own heritage. Such are the personal that make up Simon & Schuster's songbook for young people. So all these young people everywhere being beguiled and deceived. Fireside Book of Folk Songs. Fireside Book of Folk Songs, also published by Simon & Schuster, is extremely popular in the classrooms of our public school systems. See there? We as children back then, we probably never knew what we were being led to think. Crawl under your desk and have a nuclear bomb exercise. Like getting under your desk is going to do any good. The work is beautifully bound with excellent style and art reproductions. However, even though obviously printed for children, it contains selections that do not fill the eyes, the ears, and heart with pleasure, as we are assured on the jacket. So the jacket says this songbook is for children, but the songs are anything but that children should be singing or hearing. I think I used to get the Boy Scout magazine when I was young, and there were some crazy things in those magazines. Some crazy, bizarre, a lot of sexual connotation when I was a young boy. Boy Scout magazines. Always wondered about that later on. I should try to see if I can find some on some used book sites, those old Boy Scout magazines. I'll bet there's a story to be told there. The Russian folk song, Meadowlands, is included in this work. The song is a tribute to the Communist Red Army, the army which William Foster, former head of the Communist Party, USA, said would someday assure a Soviet America. So don't be misled by the word communist. Communism was created by the Marxist and the Bolshevik, Zionist, bankster Jewish people. They're working towards a Jewish utopia. Meadowlands is also to be found in the People's Songbook, originally published by Bonnie and Greer, then People's Artist, Inc. Notice how they come up with these names. People's Artist. Then Sing Out, Inc. That was another company. And now Oak Publications. The lyrics are totally non-evasive. In another selection entitled Moscow, the children are informed that the song is one of the most stirring Red Army songs that have come to us from the Soviet Union. And close with, "We always stand together for dear Moscow's land." All right, Takhanka is also included in this volume. So I guess that's a song. It is introduced with the following remarks. A Takhanka is a four-wheeled farm wagon, much used in the Ukraine. We've seen Ukraine in the news lately, especially where the president was overthrown when Russia was supporting Syria, and trying to stop the NATO and USA forces from bombing Syria and other countries in the Middle East. So I guess they showed Russia a little lesson and got the people riled up and in revolutionary format overthrew their own president. And apparently, according to some material back then, I put this in previous videos, weeks later or days later, 35 tons of gold was taken out of the Ukraine and shipped to New York City. I bet the people didn't think about that when they were following along with these revolutionary ideas and promises. We're going to make life better for you. Overthrow your president. Right now they're trying to stimulate and incite more hatred against President Donald Trump. They control all of this. They're controlling what we think. And we don't even know it, largely. Alright, so a Takhanka is a four-wheeled farm wagon much used in the Ukraine. During the civil wars, the partisans set up in it a kind of a gun that they could hold of and thus improvised a sort of mobile firepower, which for the first time offset the traditional historical cavalry superiority of the Cossacks and the regular Tsarist army. So they're putting these weaponries into children's songs. Folk songs written during Khrushchev's death purges of the Ukraine are missing. So folk songs written during the leader of Russia, Khrushchev's death purges. I told you, when they have a revolution, they have death purges. And in this case, I suppose it'll be death purges of Christians and other good people. Remember that this is a battle, and one side has definitely chosen Lucifer, Satanism, and the other side that's being attacked for the last 100 years easily are the Christians and other good people. Let's just say what it is. But they don't want you to think about it in those clear terms. Come, Fellow Workers is a Red Chinese song. Fahrenheit is a tribute to the communist fighting in Spain and is introduced with the explanation. The song of the Thelman Battalion, the first unit of the International Brigade. The International Brigade. So these communists have been busy across the world. And apparently these evil forces are controlling the United States right now, and Europe. But we the people don't know the difference. I don't see it coming. Los Cuatro Generales looks like a general, also refers to the Spanish communist forces, and most of these pro-communist songs are in the People's Songbook. There are a few folk songs included which are obviously in bad taste, e.g. Careless Love, but the most brazen pro-red American folk song included in the Fireside Book is entitled Joe Hill. It is prefaced with Joe Hill, a great labor organizer and poet, was executed in 1915 on a murder charge which Union circles have always considered a frame-up. Apart from the obvious question as to which Union circles, the unsuspected reader is not informed that Joe Hill was an organizer of the old IWW, the forerunner of the Communist Party, USA. A lot of people don't know a lot of stuff in history. All right, moving on here. And still on the Attorney General's list of active subversive organizations, the volume Songs of Joe Hill has been published by People's Artist, Inc. and includes some of his best compositions. Pie in the Sky, one of his better known compositions, reads, I'll try to read this in an entertaining way. Long-haired preachers come out every night, try to tell you what's wrong and what's right. But when asked, how about something to eat, they will answer with sweet voices so sweet, you will eat by and by, in that glorious land above the sky. Work and pray, live on hay. You get pie in the sky when you die. That's a lie. Some of Joe Hill's other works make his red position obvious. For example, in his Workers and the World Awaken, we are told, Workers of the world awaken. Remember, this is a song. Rise in all your splendid might. Take the wealth that you are making. It belongs to you by right. So they want the workers to unite and revolt and take the wealth. It belongs to you by right. No one for bread be crying. We'll have freedom, love, and health. Remember when Obama first got elected, his slogan was change. Well, did we get change? And then, of course, President Donald Trump is Make America Great Again. Are they really going to make America great again? I don't believe any of these people. When the grand red flag is flying in the workers' commonwealth. So they really want people to think they're going to create a workers' commonwealth, when these people don't have any intentions of doing something like that. They want to treat us all like cattle. But people will be beguiled. They'll build more beer breweries and more downtown festivals and send people more checks. It's a small pittance they pay. They're spending trillions on weapons and all kinds of other things. But they'll appease the people to a point. Then the hammer will come down. And people will go, I wish I'd have seen this coming. We should have seen this coming. Isn't that the way it always is? World War I, World War II, those were staged, organized events. The people were riled up, patriotic. Oh, the Germans have just sunk an American boat. Or these people. Now the Syrians poisoning the people. 911, it was those guys in some caves in the Middle East. What are you going to do? All right, Joe Hills, in his Should I Ever Be a Soldier, he writes, we're spending billions every year for guns and ammunition. Our Army and our Navy dear to keep in good condition. While Millions live in misery, and millions die before us. Don't sing My Country 'Tis of Thee, but sing this little chorus. Should I ever be a soldier, 'neath the red flag I would fight. So if you're ever going to be a soldier, fight for the communist. Should a gun I ever shoulder, it's to crush the tyrant's might. So they're demorizing the Republicans. And to the Republicans, they're demorizing the Democrats. Join the army of the toilers, men and women fall in line. Wage slaves of the world arise. Do your duty for the cause, land and liberty. Well, every revolution or overthrow I've seen so far in my life, it didn't get any better for the people. Egypt, Ukraine, Iraq, Afghanistan, all those countries. The people were duped. It's worse. In a vicious parody on the gospel hymn, there is power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power in the blood of the Lamb. That would be Jesus. Joe Hill wrote, if you've had enough of the blood of the Lamb, then join the Grand Industrial Band. So if you've had enough of Jesus, join this communist organization. If for a change you would have eggs and ham, then come, do your share like a man. His famous The Rebel Girl was dedicated to the Elizabeth Gurley Flynn, a former officer in the Communist Party USA. Oddly enough, the Amalgamated Clothing Workers of America, the AFL-CIO, still persist in singing Earl Robinson's Joe Hill, and even the Catholic Young Christian Workers Songbook has this song praising Joe Hill. Well, obviously, Joe Hill is pro-communist. And a lot of people here in the United States are pro-socialist, which is another word for communist. Now, I'm all for responsible leadership and taking care of the people and Social Security and benefits for people who get ill or can't find a job. I'm all for that. But right now, I think what they're doing is they're setting the stage to pull the rug from under everybody if they crash the economy, which they keep threatening, shutting down the government, passing legislation. So they do plan on this new age, a new world order. No doubt about that. I showed in the beginning of this video, that's why I showed those books. There is much evidence to support that there's a plan. There's things taking place every day. All right, Dr. Gerald Reel, in an article on folk music, writes, Pageant magazine published another folk masterpiece, March 1964. This one by writer Nat Hentoff, entitled The Odyssey of Woody Guthrie, the rebel who started the folk song craze. That article tells of the glories of a number of persons who've been influential in the folk song propaganda. Guthrie, Mallard, Lampel, Malvina Reynolds, Lewis Gordon, Lee Hayes, and of course Pete Segal. Gordon is a former young communist leaguer, while Millard Lampel was identified as a communist in the Alan Shomes testimony before the HCUA. Like I said, they had congressional hearings back then on these things. Malvina Reynolds, mentioned by Hentoff, has recently attained a certain fame of her own in the folk fad. She was the author of a musical attack on development housing entitled Little Boxes, which has been very popular. Miss Reynolds is a Ban the Bomber, like so many other folk singers, who was identified in the early 1950 in sworn testimony before the House Committee on Un-American Activities and before the Senate Internal Security Subcommittee in 1963 as a communist. She was ever a communist. She was even a communist for the communist publication People's World, and was registered as a communist voter in 1936 and in 1942. Well, I hope you can see with the congressional hearings and these records and record companies and song creations, they were out there trying to change the social culture of America. And I'm confident they were doing it all over Europe. And there is this battle, apparently, throughout history. And this is in this book here. We'll read that. The Encyclopedia Judaica on Communism. But even Stalin, Lenin, and so many other authors, Henry Ford, in his books, The Automaker, the Dearborn Independent, his books on the Jewish problem, that's what it's written on the cover of those books. I've made videos on Henry Ford's books. But even back then, when we were having congressional hearings in the United States on the Jewish problem, in Russia they were having all kinds of hearings and legislation and things called, and you'll see this in the Jewish Encyclopedia, the Jewish problem. So the bottom line is, apparently, the Jewish people throughout history could not, would not, did not want to assimilate with the rest of us. It's something seriously culturally different. Their fundamental part of their culture was the Kabbalah. A lot of Kabbalists were accused of sorcery. And there's all kinds of crazy stuff, insightful stuff, videos I've made that I didn't want to make. But there is this thing that just can't mesh. So they wouldn't join the decent people of the world, the Christians and people with morality and God's Ten Commandments. And whatever things else they were into. The two cultures wouldn't go together like this. So it appears the solution will be to get rid of Christianity and get everybody into the decadent, perverse culture that's the New Age and all this other stuff is describing. The propaganda, the beguilement, the deception. So apparently good couldn't win. The evil people are in control of governments and banks and other institutions, colleges, and everything all over the world. They created these corporations which answer to nobody. And Tex Mars said a lot of the CEOs for these international corporations were Jewish. I didn't believe it. So I went on Wikipedia, looked up all the big companies and the CEOs, and I became convinced. So that's the bottom line, is this good and evil. And they want, the good people will be called haters for not approving of gay marriage, pansexualism, transgenderism, all this crazy propaganda we have clearly seen. And then with the songs, Miley Cyrus, Wrecking Ball, and many other songs, Katy Perry and Allegra Grande and the London bombing. Anyways, on YouTube, if you go watch some of these videos, it's disgusting. It's obvious. But the people don't see it. And the citizens out there everywhere, a lot of them, have gone out and put all kinds of body piercings all over their body, their lips, their chin, everywhere. And all kinds of interesting satanic tattoos and graffitis in our downtown, skulls and bones, the Brotherhood of Death maybe. So there is this thing messing with our minds, our social reality. And maybe it's beyond saving. But I keep reading books and finding more information and making videos and having a conversation, maybe to no avail. Maybe. But I believe in God. I believe Jesus was sent from the other realm, just like many prophets were. This other realm, this invisible reality, does exist. And apparently it can be demonic with demons. And it can have evil entities and creatures mentioned throughout history. So who's winning the war? The people who are asleep? The people who are zombies? Or these aggressive New Age, New World Order propaganda people? The Illuminati, Zionist type secret societies, etc. Witchcraft, Satanism, all the organizations. Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta, Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderberger Group, Bohemian Grove, Club of Rome. I've gone over those books. Constance Coombe's book, she was a lawyer by profession, but Beware of the Rainbow mentions all these groups. Rosicrucians, all kinds of names. But let's talk some more about this book and finish this video. Fawcett Publication Press has produced a paperback book on folk music entitled Hootenanny Tonight. Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie are favorably mentioned on the very first page. On the next page we are told, however, I feel particularly indebted to Iron Silber of Sing Out. A magazine for his cooperation and advice. Over the years, I found Sing Out to be an extremely valuable source of ideas, information, and just plain gossip about the world of folk music. If this sounds like a plug, that's exactly what it is. I enthusiastically recommend Sing Out to everybody who enjoys this book. Please write to Sing Out, Inc., 165 West 46th Street, New York, for more information. One only wonders if Mr. Leasy, compiler of Hootenanny Tonight, fully realizes what he is saddling on the backs of innocent and naive readers. Mr. Silber and his potent Sing Out, as mentioned before, are not exactly red, white, and blue Americans. In one of Mr. Sieber's Fan the Flames of discontent editorials, he writes, I wish there was an article on the songs of the Viet Cong which could print out and sing out. At the moment, I don't know how else to express the sense of despair and shame that I feel as the Americans at the actions of my government in Vietnam. I'm skipping some stuff here. In a letter, Fan the Flames, in the latter, Fan the Flames, article Sieber refers to the former Secretary of Defense as Mac the Knife for his role in the Vietnam War. In verse form, Sieber quotes some unnamed agitator. So I guess these are some lyrics to a song here. Who's aggressing? Who is messing? In another country's life. Not Haoni, friend. It's our boyfriend. Mac Manera, Mac the Knife. If Mr. Leasy had trouble understanding Sing Out, foreign policy, obviously some of Sing Out's readers aren't having the same difficulty. In her letter written to the editor, Mr. Paul Perrine of Palm Beach, Florida wrote, Your editorial this month, Sing Out, September 1965, is ridiculous. What true lover of the arts would mix it with present foreign policy? Robert Lovell is in the same category as Lou Chandler, who uses folk music to further his own cause. What about my cause, such as being for stopping communism in Vietnam, etc.? I can't see what this has to do with the enjoyment of folk music, any more than it has to do with enjoyment of classical music. As long as people like you condone this sort of thing, true folk music, which is the basis of our enjoyment of the art, it will suffer. It is becoming obvious that your magazine and its editors have no interest in folk music. You're a bunch of con artists who get people to pay to read crap like your editorial under the guise of it's being all about folk music. If you actually are a bunch of pro-communist pacifists, I wouldn't expect this letter to have any effect whatsoever. In the same issue of Sing Out, Mr. Joe Henderson, Corton-on-Hudson, New York, wrote, "You stuff too much into Sing Out. That has nothing to do with folk music." So in these editorials in the Sing Out magazine, they were doing the communist platform. For instance, Ira Sieber's Songs from Berkeley in May issue, which makes heroes out of some clowns who make the case for free speech something to laugh at. And Fan the Flames in the same issue, Ho-Ha, Songs of the Viet Cong indeed. Tell me, Mr. Sieber, did you during World War II collect Song of the Stormtroopers? Stick to folk music? You're a bomb at politics. Needless to say, Sing Out gave a warm review to Hootenanny Tonight. Written by Oscar Brand, it even referred to Lisi as the phony gospel preacher who is converted. According to Brand, Jim Lisi has been saved. Although Lisi's work features many innocuous folk songs, it also contains the now famous Suicide Song. A song apparently so popular that even third graders were chanting invitation to suicide in a California grade school. The lyrics of the song are sick. All right, let's see how good I am at singing this song. Oh, come with me to the kitchen, to the kitchen, to the kitchen. Oh, come with me to the kitchen, and there a date with death we both will keep. Turn on the gas in the oven, in the oven, in the oven. Turn on the gas in the oven, and it will gently lull us both to sleep. Then you got a chorus here. Listen to the hiss sounds. Listen to the hiss sounds. So that would be gas hissing out. They're calling, gently calling you and me. Listen to the hiss sounds. Listen to the hiss sounds. We'll say goodbye and die in ecstasy. Can't make this stuff up. The words were written by Jane Lisi and Pat Blank to be sung to the tune of Listen to the Mockingbird. According to Lindsay, it was written one gloomy Sunday afternoon. It had a certain appeal in the high days of sick humor, and I performed it occasionally and included it in the 6-song section of Songs for Swingin' House Mothers. Songs for Swingin' House Mothers. Speaking of swingers, that was a creation of the Frankish Sabbatan Jewish people, where people would swap partners and have orgies. Again, you see the pattern? Evil versus good. I never really thought much of it, despite the audience enthusiasm, until I began hearing it back from others in remote corners of the country. Pat and I were pleased to become a poor folks Tim Lira, particularly when we heard he'd bought the book. However, it can hardly be considered innocent fun when one considers the following. Child suicides are increasing at an alarming rate, according to the National Education Association, and now approach 2 a day suicide attempts. According to one official, there were probably between 369 and 738 suicide attempts in New Jersey in the 4 years from 1960 to 1963, with at least 41 of them successful. The danger signs can appear as early as the first few months of kindergarten. So I guess what you teach these kids is important. I don't even have to get into the fact if you actually sat down and watched your kids' cartoons, you probably wouldn't let them watch them. They talk about little Betty Bear being able to date Bobby Bear or Susie Bear. She can date whatever sex she wants. 6-year-old, 7-year-old kids watching that. That's the conversation that I watched with some kids. We couldn't believe it. But that's another story. The article further states 5 million Americans have tried at some time in their lives to commit suicide, and 1 million of them will eventually succeed. Tragic as these acts may be, especially to the surviving families and friends, the heartbreak is doubled when a child takes his life or attempts to do so. Parents, teachers, classmates all feel too late that they could have done something. Hootenanny Tonight also contains the following fear verse, sung to a popular folk song. All right, let me see if I can sing this one. The atom bomb fell just the other day. The H-bomb fell in the very same way. Russia went, England went, and the USA. The human race was finished without a chance to pray. Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, Petty Seeger, Ewan McCall, Gene Ritchie, and Sing Out are found throughout the book. But of course the bait is swallowed. If the book does nothing more than persuade its readers to write Sing Out Inc. I got a few more minutes here. Folk music is also an ideal way to gain the flavor of history and social studies during our nation's development. Longees doesn't inform its many friends that sitting at Seeger's socks studying the social sciences would be comparable to taking an academic bath in Brezhnov's Baltic Sea. So I guess these songs are not something nice. A Reader's Digest article entitled Behind the Folk Song, Frenzy, continued to bolster the prestige of Guthrie, Leadbelly, Dylan, and Reynolds. One can rest assured that the 6 million Americans now strumming guitars will inevitably find themselves served sing-out material if they follow the sympathies of the Digest article. Newport Folk Festival and coffee houses are gullibly thrown about without the slightest word or warning to the uninitiated. So this stuff is put out there everywhere and people don't have any idea what's going on. Paul Nelson, former manager, editor of Sing Out, and now a screenwriter, gives a glowing report of the Newport Folk Festival, 1964. In the part played in the festival by Pete Seeger, Melavina Reynolds, Joan Baez, Judy Collins, Bob Dylan, Peter, Paul, and Mary, Doc Watson, and the Sing Out favorites. I'm sure I probably know a lot of these songs and probably liked them. But remember Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball? Katy Perry, some of her songs? Lady Gaga? Madonna? If you watch it, pay attention. It's just grotesque and satanic. But what are you going to do? People are, they don't catch on. The only right-wing coffee house on the West Coast, the Rally Right Political Folk Song Singing Club, folded after 3 weeks. So if you do pro-American songs and stuff like that, you're probably not going to last very long. There seems to be a list of coffee houses available that specialize in topical songs, i.e. songs of immorality, against the HCUA, against the South, songs for communists and revolution. These coffee houses are geared to folknik beatnik set and must be quite popular for Sing Out, has joyously announced a new full-length film entitled Once Upon a Coffee House. So they're making movies about this stuff. And all the old movies you've seen, the Beatniks on the Beach, Elvis Presley. They did a lot. What was their intentions? Were there sinister, malevolent intentions? And I'm not a prude. I like to party or go to a football game or listen to jazz music. A lot of this stuff, you know, you just don't know how your mind is being led. Okay, Oscar Brand, radio folk jockey, author of The Ballad Mongers, and sometimes writer for Sing Out, stars in the film. The story naturally portrays a young conservative millionaire falling in love with an attractive folk singer on a visit to a coffee house. The Digest article admits that folk songs are a weapon. The Reader's Digest article admits that folk songs are a weapon, but concludes the folk frenzy is a matter for rejoicing, since it is making activists out of our college students. When one fully comprehends the active togetherness experienced by the folk singers and communists at Berkeley, one wonders whose side the Reader's Digest writers are on. The article's most obvious inconsistency is the writer's approval of Times magazine's analysis of folk music, i.e., rootless root seekers discern in folk songs that define basic values of American life, along with his approval of Variety's analysis of folk singer Bob Dylan. Rootless root seekers discern in folk songs of the fine basic values of American life. Complaints against warmongers, poverty, injustice, atom fallout, hard-hearted sweethearts, and the selling and buying of soap. Nowhere was there one word of hope or remedy. So all these songs were kind of depressing. The truth of the matter is that Sing Out, in its approval list of songs and singers, are not about to sing America's finest qualities. A study of Sing Out publications makes this obvious. For example, Sing Out in one volume extols. So they have a song about the gallows, death, seduction and hanging, the child's loss of father, unjust and imperialistic Mexican war, misplaced love, poaching, ban the bomb, revolution, murder, desertion, illicit love, suicide, illicit love, murder, the bomb of Hiroshima, illicit love. Wow, they got a lot of that one there, illicit love. Death, parody on Korean veterans, wife stealing, illicit love, parental disobedience, don't obey your parents, blood, chain gang, funeral mockery, death, laughter when children die. Laughter when children die? Who writes a song like that? Gallows, betrayal by false-hearted women, and other volumes in the reprint series are similar and some even worse. And then one cannot fan the flames of discontent and the revolution with fine qualities. So I think I'll end this video there, if that wasn't enough. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting.